Hi guys, my name is Shmail. I am currently a medical student studying in the UK. So this whole video will be about the UCAT and what you need to know and what you need to do, and also about my experiences. So I've done the UCAT twice, and you could also say that I'm about to do the UCAT for the third time, and you're probably wondering how. Well, the thing is, I'm having to create all these videos on the UCAT and also teach other people about the UCAT and how to tackle certain questions. But in order for me to actually do that, I have to get Medify, I have to start practicing questions, I have to start reading behind the theory behind each questions, but it's not something that I can do from the top of my head or something that I can, teach without having to practice. The issue with the UCAT is it's not really something theoretical. Yes, there is a bit of theory and a bits to actually understand on, how the question works, but it's a skill. It's something that comes with practice and something that comes with over time. I can teach someone right now about cell biology, but I can't teach someone the UCAT without having to do it myself, without actually having to have, weeks of practice and, it's a skill that comes over time. It's just like, riding a bike. You don't learn to ride a bike just like that and reading from a textbook. You actually have to, put it into practice and physically do it and work your muscle memory and all of that. It's the exact same here, with recognizing certain patterns in abstract reasoning instantly without having to think, and it all comes with practice. The more you practice, the more you engrave these different techniques, different patterns within your head. So right now, let me talk you through what I did the first time round. And so yeah, let me talk you through. Okay, so what did I do the first time round? Well, I bought Medify because I just knew that was what everyone used back then. And I went on holiday for around 7 weeks, 6 weeks or so. So through the entire 6 weeks holiday, I was away from home, and I had Medify, I had my laptop, I had my mouse as well, and so I had, pretty much all the basics. So I thought, that's it, that's all I need. So I went straight into it. I began attempting the questions, I got familiar with them. By familiar, I literally just mean I skimmed through all the questions, attempted them, moved on. That's it. And I saw my scores, fluctuate, and over time I was like, okay, I should now focus on my weakest subset. So I did that. But what did I actually do? I literally just practiced more of that subset. So let's say if it was abstract reasoning, I would be like, okay, more questions on abstract reasoning. Click, 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 click. Obviously there was no, benefit in doing that, because number one, I'm not actually paying attention to what I actually got wrong. So really, this, but then once again, this was my first time doing the UCAT. And bearing in mind that I had literally I knew no one who did the UCAT. And so it was a little bit difficult. But then I learned a lot from this. The thing that I learned was that this UCAT revision required a technique. There's no point advising someone to focus just on their weaknesses. Like, where do I look? Do I just look at the subset? Do I look at a specific question? Do I look at a specific style of question? Or do I just scratch upon my math skill? Do I need to, look at a math shapes puzzle on my phone and just attempt random questions? Or do I need to do a brain trainer? Like, where do I look? What do I do? And that's when I had to do the UCAT for the second time. So, damn it, it's sweaty in here. So what did I do the second time round? Well, the second time round, I literally broke the UCAT down into its tiny, tiny elements. And you're probably wondering how. Well, let's take, for example, decision making. Decision making, there's only 9 to 12 different styles of questions. Obviously, each question will have its own individual numbers, individual shapes, but there's a certain style. For those style of questions, let's say, for example, the math shapes puzzle equation question. That was long. That requires its own technique. Let's say, for example, the map puzzle question. That requires its own technique. This is something I didn't think of the first time around, and it's so important too, because focusing on each individual overall your score just increases. And I actually analyzed how often this would come up, throughout the exam, throughout the mock exams, throughout, the UCAT, official website, and it came up quite a lot. So I was like, this is something I can't be neglecting. I actually have to, look at each individual style of question, and I did that for all the different subsets, because the more you practice, the more you actually see, there's this style of question, or there's that style of question. So that's the first thing I did. So what did I do for each subset? How did I approach each subset differently? Well, this is what I did. So starting off with verbal reasoning. Verbal reasoning was disgusting. I absolutely hate verbal reasoning, but it is what it is. It's there, you have to do it. So what did I do? I analyzed each type of passage, and I came across passages which I disliked, passages which I liked, and passages which were, okay, I don't mind answering them. So there were different types of genres for each passage. There were some, politics, law, science, dentistry, biomedical science, there was engineering, there was latest technology, there was youth issues, there was a whole range of different genres. And what I did then is I categorized them into topics I like, topics I dislike. Now, what do I do with that information? Well, the topics that I disliked, I just knew my concentration levels would dip. I would absolutely hate it. I just wouldn't be able to do it, and I would spend twice as much than I actually need to on those style of questions or those certain passages. So what I did then was, during the exam, I skipped them. I gave myself, 6-7 lifelines throughout, verbal reasoning. I knew that in order for me to obtain around 600, 700 plus, I can only miss out 6 questions. And those 6 questions would be those style of, genres, the ones that I hated. So that's the one thing I changed completely from the first time to the second time. And it's something that I'd recommend you do as well, because what you'll find in the UCAT is that sometimes you might run out of time. Sometimes you spend more time on one question than another, and you kind of end up wasting time. This exam is not, you don't have to answer every question. The skill that you're also having to, build up is being able to skip certain questions and still be able to get a high enough score. Because really, think about it, 30 seconds to read a passage, answer a question, also understand the passage, because that in itself, reading a passage and understanding a passage are completely two different things. But reading, understanding, and then answering the question whilst also reading the question, all within 30 seconds. Come on, it seems a bit, come on, please, more time. You can't. Anyways, you've got to build up the skill of missing certain styles of questions. So that's something I would do. And you'll feel good about yourself. Number one, you know that, okay, I'm actually literally putting marks in my bag. Whereas if I just go through, I can't even speak today, sorry. If I go through each of the questions one by one, regardless of whether I like them or not, chances of me getting a high score is very, very low. And obviously, if I attempt the questions I like first, I can get through it a lot quicker, and then I save myself time, and I can actually now go back to the questions I hate and put more mental power into it, and that way my verbal reasoning score will go up. So it's something, you might want to do, maybe. But anyways, moving on. Just another thing as well, some of you might consider getting a UCAT book. When I say UCAT book, I don't mean an ebook with techniques and stuff. I literally mean a UCAT book which has questions in. Please, 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 please don't use books. This is an exam which will be done on your laptop or your computer. It's not something that should be done from a book. The BMAT, yes, that's, it's a paper exam. It doesn't make sense to revise via, paper, but then end up doing the exam online. It's a totally different zone. You have to adapt differently. It just does not work. So avoid books, and the only useful thing that you get from the book is the technique, which literally you can go to the library or WH Smith, take out the book, read the technique, put it back, go home. That's literally it. You're saving yourself dollars, sorry, I'm in the UK, pounds, and, is kind of pointless. Other than that, there are books out there, for example, books which provide, techniques only. Those books are, like worth getting. When I say books, they're not really books, they're more like a PDF document with a whole range of techniques, but you get the idea. So let's take a look at decision making. Now, decision making, honestly, it's like I hated it the first time round, but the second time round, what I found was that it's a really nice subset. Now, hear me out. So basically, within decision making, there are around 12 styles of questions. That's it. So you're not just randomly hit with some voodoo. You'll be very familiar with the whatever style of question that comes up within decision making. I've got a link in the description below which leads to my UCAT ebook, which has a list of all of these decision making styles of questions and how I attempt to go about each one. But I'm also going to be releasing videos on here as well, how to tackle each style of decision making question. And like, let's say, for example, just to give you an example, you've got the math shapes puzzle equation, you've got the map distance puzzle questions. Honestly, I need to work on the names. Then you've got the Bill, Jake, Jill, and Sally question, and they have 4 cars. Each car is a different color. Which individual has the yellow car? That style of question. So you get the idea. I really need to work on my names for all of these styles of questions. Anyways, that's something for me to work on. But you get the idea that you need to kind of break down decision making into its constituents and actually work out which style of question is your weakest. Because obviously you have a weak subset, but then you have a weak style of question and you want to work on that. So do that. Another thing to add on top of that is use Medify. Honestly, Medify is probably the best resource I have used out there. Number one, it's been there for around 10 years, I think, or maybe more, definitely more than 5-6 years. I know that for sure. So definitely use Medify. And because of that, they are renewing their questions. They get checked so often. Plus, they have, obviously, the new features, so the verbal reasoning trainer, the quantitative reasoning trainer, so definitely use those as well. So the reason why I'm saying use Medify is because, number one, it's very similar to the actual exam. Number two, you can do, 50 sets of questions all at once. So in regards to decision making, if you're wanting to practice a certain style of question, let's say the maths shape puzzle equation, you can put on 50 sets of questions, which is the maximum, and go through all the different sets, ignore the questions which are irrelevant, and only focus on the math shapes puzzle equations, and do them over and over again. And honestly, it's absolutely wonderful. I actually love Medify, and I've got it this year as well, just to help out other people. So it's something I can definitely rely on. So if you're thinking or hesitant on spending money on different places, Medify is where you want to be going. So definitely go for that. Now, quantitative reasoning. Now, obviously, maths isn't for everyone, but this whole section isn't. It's testing your math skills, but it's also testing something else, which is a lot harder, which is to be able to read a passage and being able to quickly identify what equation you're actually going to be using. Because really, if I'm honest with you, the maths in quantitative reasoning is easy, but when you add, the time pressure to it, then it becomes a little bit harder. So for the second time round, what I did was ignore timed conditions for now in the early stages. So in your 3rd or 4th week, you still don't want to be you don't want to be doing timed yet. Well, you can be. It really is down to you and how much time you've got left. But really, you want to be looking at the techniques, looking to see whether you can actually read a passage and formulate an equation. You want to time yourself how quickly you can do that, rather than actually timing the whole thing, because that just adds a great amount of pressure. So get a stopwatch, time yourself how quickly can you actually read a passage and formulate an equation, because really that's the hardest bit. After that, if you actually do the maths, it's not that hard. It's actually being able to pick out the equations from the passage. And I believe if you did this untimed, I believe everyone would do exceptionally well in quantitative reasoning. And then once again, not to say that it's not about maths. Obviously, you have to do your basic maths, which is, around GCSE level. So your ratios, your averages, your perimeter calculations, areas, volume calculations, direct proportion. There's a whole list. So once again, link in the description below to my UCAT ebook, which goes through pretty much all of this as well. So I just want to reassure you, even if your maths isn't the best, you can still possibly do well in quantitative reasoning. And obviously I've got other videos to help you on quantitative reasoning, so definitely check them out, and hopefully it should be able to boost up your score. Once again, you've got certain styles of questions within quantitative reasoning. You've got speed equals distance divided by time questions, you've got ratio questions, you've got questions which involve, a recipe. Jack bakes a cake, he's got 12 grams of sugar, 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of vanilla. This is a recipe for 12 people. He wants to make it for 100 people. How much butter does he need? Questions like that. There are certain different styles of questions you need to be able to identify. Figure out now, okay, which style of question do I hate the most? And do this all untimed. You want to give yourself a bit of breathing space as well, like relax. You can do this. And actually just work through each style of question bit by bit. So that's pretty much it for quantitative reasoning. And obviously if you've got any questions, comment down below. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. So moving on to abstract reasoning. I love this. Basically, the reason why I love this is number one, well, I didn't like it at the start. I was like you as well. I honestly, it's so hot in here. But sorry, I'm distracting myself. I didn't like it first time around. It's because I couldn't see the pattern instantly, and that used to frustrate me. So I was like, come on, there were other people who were able to, instantly see the pattern. Here's another thing. Don't compare yourself to other people. People are at different stages, in the UCAT, and honestly, with the more time you put in, the more practice you have, you'll be able to get there. Look at me. I love the, abstract reasoning section. I absolutely love it. So, number one, check the UCAT website. They have released, few patterns that they could possibly test you on. And look at that, or use this mnemonic right here. Obviously, it doesn't contain number, because number is a common pattern that I instantly, think of the first time round. So use this mnemonic. It's a wonderful mnemonic. But it's a mnemonic I would use out of all the different mnemonics out there. Obviously, I've got a video on various different types of mnemonics, and I haven't put this mnemonic on because it's something that I created this year, but I know that I put it into practice and it actually really helped, so definitely use it. And it's obviously something that you cannot forget. So, sorry, back to all of this as well. So, number one, mnemonics. Number two, what else did I do? I did it all untimed. I literally went through each style of abstract reasoning question: number, shape, color, ratio, equivalence, equidistance, the whole range. And every time I would get an abstract reasoning question wrong, hold up, I would literally write it down. So these are my notes. From back then when I did the UCAT for the second time around. So I would literally write down any pattern I would get wrong. And I would organize that in terms of, whether it's a number pattern or a shapes pattern. Because, for example, within the number, category, you've got, 2 black shapes and 1 white shape, and they're both on top of one another, or white shapes on top of the black shape, things like that. And I would put each specific detail down, and I would create a whole list. I obviously haven't got the full thing here with me today, but it's on my laptop. But this whole, list of patterns came up to around 15, 16 pages, definitely. So every time I would do the UCAT, I would review it, and I'd make sure, okay, be aware for this pattern because that was hard. Be aware for that pattern. That pattern's easy. Because when you then redo the abstract reasoning questions again, then you'll look at a certain pattern and you'll be like, okay, instantly, you'll be thinking of the patterns that you got wrong, and you're putting it all into practice. So I will hopefully create a video showing you my thought process whilst I'm attempting abstract reasoning, so you can see what I'm actually doing. And honestly, this is literally all you need. There is no magic sauce. There are these expensive courses out there charging 3,000, 700, 800. Trust me, you do not need to spend any more money apart from an actual resource that you can actually practice questions on, such as, Medify. Like, honestly, that's all you need. Medify, YouTube, and social media. Honestly, like, that's all you need. You don't need to be spending so much money on this. There's no secret sauce. It's all about practice. Tell me, who would pay, £400 for a bicycle lesson to learn how to ride a bike? No one does, because it's a skill. It's a skill that you learn. It's not something theoretical. Is a skill that comes with practice, and you can only obtain a skill with practice. For example, I'm trying to learn Spanish. I can't learn Spanish by paying someone £500 to teach me. No, it doesn't work like that. It requires practice. It requires me speaking. So you get the idea. Don't spend too much money. So anyways, back to where I was. Abstract reasoning, it's honestly a wonderful subset. Once you get into the habit of answering questions and getting them wrong, and then hopefully getting them right, and writing them down, and actually reviewing the whole list, trust me, your score will go flying up into the roof and maybe touch the moon as well. So that's all I have for abstract reasoning, I think. Well, if you've got any other questions regarding abstract reasoning, comment down below and I will be, happy to answer. So yeah. Okay, so finally, situational judgment. Now, situational judgment, was my favorite subset. Still is today, because I would go through it timed and I would still have around, 5-10 minutes, maybe even more left. And honestly, I felt so good. And even then I would get band 2, band 1. But what was the reason for me getting band 1, band 2? Well, number one, The Good Medical Practice by the GMC. Check it out. Link is in the description below. So what I would do is I printed it off, like here, and I would highlight it. I would read it as if it's a storybook and I'm trying to learn some theory. And this is actually the only bit where I felt there was a lot of theory too, so in the whole UCAT. So I would read each one, and this would give me a good idea as to what would be an inappropriate response, an appropriate response, highly important or not so important. So reading that really helps, and obviously annotating it as you go along, research around it, which is what I did. And obviously when it comes to interview, man, this is gold. This is literally all you need. But that's a video for another day. So in regards to situational judgment, it's typically a subset that usually everyone likes. If it's a subset that you don't really like, don't worry. Literally comment down below with your issue or problem and I will be more than happy to help you out. But with that being said, situational judgment is something that you can actually learn very, very, very quickly. And if you're, have a schedule, for your UCAT, you can possibly do situational judgment and another subset, because really this subset should be something that's quite intriguing and something that you should take a bit of interest in, because it's about the medical clinical setting, and it's a very accurate representation of what it's a very accurate judgment of what a good doctor may be. So definitely do well on this, and you want to be aiming for at least band 1 or band 2 at the least. Obviously band 3 is minimum, but are we really aiming for minimum here? So yeah. Okay, so that's it everyone. That is pretty much everything on the UCAT, I believe so. If I've missed out something, please comment down below and I shall see you next time. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing fine. I hope your family's well. I hope if you have a pet fish, he or she is also doing well. So yeah, I shall see you next time in the next video, which shall be in the next 15 minutes because I'm going to record another video. So yeah.